Hey, Charlie.
Let's talk.
It's the right talk.
Charlie?
Welcome. This is the Charlie James Show.
Now we're talking.
News Talk 98.9,
WORD.
the voice of the Carolinas.
And welcome to the program on your Wednesday afternoon. If you wear a toupee, I would put a little extra adhesive on today. It was windy out there today. Nice, cold, and windy. It was a blustery day, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. And my board is all messed up, so I can't control my cough here. Okay, well, there you go. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. I mean, what days do we not have a lot to talk about? We just got so much going on. We got that little Fed rate cut that they're hanging in there. We've also got what happened down in Florida yesterday in Miami. And this seriously concerns me. And it should concern all of the Republicans out there. In Miami, a white lady named Eileen Higgins defeated Emilio Gonzalez to be the mayor of Miami. All right? So let's just dig into some of these numbers real quick, and maybe you'll see why I'm a little bit concerned. There are 175,692 registered voters in the city of Miami. There were 37,496 votes cast. That's it. 175,692 voters and 37,496 votes were cast. That means 138,196 people did not vote in that election. Did not vote. This was a 21.34% voter turnout. Wow. That really is amazing to me, that people will allow that. That people will allow 78% of the people, a little over 78% of the people will allow 21% of the people to determine their future. Blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. Now, we all know that a lot more people turned out to vote in the presidential election in 2024. We know they showed up then. And we know Republicans showed up pretty handily then as well. But it just seems like, for some reason, if Donald Trump is not on the ballot, there are some Republicans out there that just aren't going to show up to vote. They're not going to do it. It doesn't matter. And that worries me greatly because of what that might mean for the midterm elections. Now, I think these Republicans at times, I mean, they're resting on their own laurels. They're saying, hey, we won. Hey, look what we did. Look what we did in the presidential election. He won 312 electoral votes. We got the popular vote. This is going to be a cakewalk for us, but it is not going to be a cakewalk because you guys are just not getting out the vote. I hate to say it. That race up in Virginia was too close, far too close for comfort. So why are they, it was Kentucky, actually. Why? Why are these people getting out to vote? Well, the main reason is I believe Congress is just not giving them a reason. We've got the economy. People are worried about affordability. People are worried about, all of this unbelievable foreign spending, and we're going to be talking about some of that coming up in just a second. People are worried about the price of gas. Up until last week, the price of gas was still way too high. Price of food, way too high. The price of beef, skyrocketing. So we've got a Congress and a Senate in Washington, D.C. that are literally sitting around and doing nothing. And it wasn't like people tried to get these people to vote. I mean, you had Ron DeSantis out there. You had Marco Rubio. He was talking about it. You had the president was talking about this election. And 21% of people showed up. I don't have a breakdown as to how many. Well, I can tell you how many Republicans showed up. 15,097. Eileen Higgins won with 22,142 votes. Total people's voting, 37,239. That's why I tell you, I mean, these midterms that are coming up in June are going to be unbelievably important. The last non-presidential primary we had in South Carolina, we had 13.5% voter turnout. That doesn't change a thing unless it changes it for the Democrats. So you guys got to make up your mind. We got another election going on the 23rd of this month. Yes, the day before Christmas Eve, we've got an election. We got the State Senate District 12 race and the State House District 21 race. You guys need to get out and vote in that. Early voting has already started. You could go to McAllister Square as you're out doing your Christmas shopping or out about doing your business over there on South Pleasantburg Drive. Drop in. It's going to take you less time to vote in this election than it's going to take you to wrap a present. That's how short the line's going to be. So, and by the way, Lee Bright in State Senate District 12, he's got a write-in opponent. The Democrats, wouldn't you hate to wake up on Christmas Eve and find out that Lee Bright had lost to a write-in opponent because the Democrats were able to rally their voters to go out and vote and the Republicans couldn't? That would be a very sad Christmas here in South Carolina. And it is important. Every single election is important. So now we've got Jasmine Crockett. She is running for Senate. And maybe, a lot of people were laughing about it. And I saw Mike Johnson kind of rubbing his hands together like, oh, goody, goody, goody. Oh, she's running. We're going to kick her. I wouldn't be so confident. I would not be so confident in that. You never know what the Democrats are going to be able to pull in Texas, even though we have all of this woman's words against her. Those things don't matter. You know who they matter to? Republicans. That's all they matter to. Why don't you listen to Jasmine Crockett? She's with Jake Tapper over on CNN. Listen to this.
Let me ask you about a quote that you've made that has some Democrats worried about your ability to win statewide. In a December 2024 Vanity Fair profile, you talked about, quote, and I'm going to read a lot of the quote just to put it in the context, quote, all the complexities within the Latino community. The immigration thing has always been something that has perplexed me about this community. It's basically like, I fought to get here, but I left y'all where I left y'all, and I want no more y'all to come here. If I wanted to be with y'all, I would stay with y'all, but I don't want y'all coming to my new home. It almost reminds me of what people would talk about when they would talk about kind of like slave mentality and the hate that some slaves would have for themselves. It's almost like a slave mentality that they have. Now, about the time that was published last year, around 1 million Latino voters in Texas were voting for Trump. Do they all have slave mentality?
No, and that's not what that said at all, to be clear. It did not say that every Latino has that type of mentality.
No, but the ones that vote for people who believe in strong or Trump's immigration policies.
So I don't believe that the people that voted for Trump believe in what they're actually getting.
You said it. It's there. You said it. This is the same woman that said just because you committed a crime doesn't mean you're a criminal. So while those statements matter to us as Republicans, and we can sit back and go, look how dumb this woman is and look what an idiot she is, it doesn't matter to the Democrats. All you have to have is a D in front of your name, and they will vote for you. Fingers crossed. Things work out in June. We'll see. Well, in November, actually, when they have the general election. But we'll see. All right, they are voting on the National Defense Authorization Act, and you won't believe what's in this bill. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Get breaking news sent straight to your phone for free. Download the Odyssey app. Follow News Talk 98.9 WORD. Stay in the know with the voice of the Carolinas. Let your fingers do the talking.
Text the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line at 800-905-0989.
This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Every time I talk about voting, I get the same group of people over on the text line talking about, it's not worth it. Oh, yeah, you know what? It would probably be more productive to stay home and wrap presents than to go vote. That's what, because Republicans are useless. That's what they are. Well, there's no better way to ensure that the Republicans stay useless, as you say, than to just sit at home and do nothing. You know what I really wish people would do? I really wish they would be honest. Just be honest and admit the truth. You just don't want to vote. You can't be bothered with the process. Oh, you want to sit back and you want to complain and you want to moan and you want to whine when you want to ask, when are they going to do something? But you're not going to do anything yourself. So as long as you keep doing nothing, nothing's going to get done. It would absolutely bring so much joy to my heart if the day after the primaries, I woke up and I found out that nearly every incumbent in Columbia had been unseated. But that's the only way you're going to get change. And the only way that all of these incumbents are going to get unseated is for people to get out and vote. No, I just can't be. Just admit it. You don't want to vote. You don't want to be. You can't be bothered. Oh, it's all blah. Okay. I mean, at least that I would be able to respect. Yeah, you know what? I don't vote because I don't want to. Yeah, I just don't. I don't like that whole thing. Can't be bothered. Okay. Well, at least you're honest. Stop giving me this. Oh, it's not going to make any difference anyway. It's the only thing that does make a difference. And again, 13.5% voter turnout, that doesn't make a difference. So in Congress today, they're voting on they're debating the National Defense Authorization Act. Now, this is one of those things. You know what? Before we get to that, let's go to Richard in Livonia. How you doing, Richard?
Richard, Charlie, this is Richard.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I love your show, man.
Thank you.
Man, I tell you what, I am scared to death. We got the Republicans in office. Okay,
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, when we had Democrats in office, it was steadily taking Trump to court, doing
Right.
this, doing that. I mean, just every time you turned around, the Democrat Party was winning over something.
Yeah.
Now we got the Republicans in office. We voted them in, and I love it. And they changed. But, man, it just makes me so mad, and I'm scared for the American people that vote Republican because nothing is getting done about these stupid people that mess the country up.
You know, because here's the thing, though. I mean, we keep voting in the same clowns. We got Thune over in the Senate, and he's blocking everything. Everything.
That's what makes me so mad. And most of the American people that voted for Trump is you got these idiots out here that keep voting these Democrat people in. I'm thinking, we can't get nothing done.
Well, here's Richard.
We need to do away with the filibuster and get something done.
Now, I agree with that. Now, Richard, let me tell you something, because most people put the main emphasis on the general election when they should be putting the emphasis on the primaries.
That's the bottom line.
Those are the most important elections that we have. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you very much, because if nobody shows up in the primaries, people like Thune, people like Tom Tillis, people like Lindsey Graham, they keep getting in. That's how it happens. The primaries are more important than the general election. Remember that. All right? So, again, the NDAA, let's see, Charlie, so when's the last day to request a mail-in ballot? I'm assuming that you are asking for an absentee ballot on that one. The last day for absentee ballots, we're talking about the State Senate District 12 and the House District 21 election that's coming up on the 23rd. The last day to get in touch with the office for an absentee ballot is December the 12th You got 2 days to do that. And that application, you need to give them a call 5 o'clock Friday. 5 o'clock Friday is the deadline to request an absentee ballot in that election. So, again, the NDAA being voted on today. And as we were talking with Congressman William Timmons yesterday, he kind of talked about the NDAA as a Christmas tree. Now, this is the National Defense Authorization Act. This is the bill that keeps our military funded, all right? Who's going to vote against that? Who's going to vote against it? You can't vote, against the military. Nobody does that. So what people do is they come in and they treat it like a Christmas tree, an ugly Christmas tree, because they start hanging all of these things on it. All of these things, they just start hanging. There's actually, from what I've heard, and I haven't read this, but some people were saying there's actually a piece of legislation in the National Defense Authorization Act that would allow men to compete in women's sports at military academies. Heard that was in there. But what else is in there? Well, a whole bunch of spending is in there. Listen to this. Ukraine, who, by the way, just basically rejected President Trump's peace plan because he listened to Macron and Starmer and all the people over there in Europe. He's backing out of the peace plan. Ukraine's going to get another $400 million a year. $400 million a year. It also authorizes $500 million for Israeli missile defense, $80 million for U.S.-Israel anti-tunnel cooperation, $50 million for U.S.-Israel anti-drone cooperation. It gives $1 billion to Taiwan, to their security corporation. They've got a Baltic Security Initiative, $175 million of security services for Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. You've got overseas humanitarian disaster and civic aid, $103 million for the Department of Defense humanitarian assistance programs. And in the Middle East, $357 million for the government of Iraq, Syria militias, the Kurdish security forces, and Lebanon, $100 million for support to Middle Eastern countries to increase security along their borders, and it directs the Secretary of Defense, War, to provide assistance, including equipment, support, and supplies to the government of Jordan and the government of Lebanon. Whole bunch of money is being spent on this, and I don't know how much of that actually has to do with our defense. I want to go to Matt in Greenville. Matt, welcome.
Hey, Charlie, I'm going to impart a little wisdom from my dad to you.
Okay.
He used to, you were talking about primaries and general elections.
Yeah.
And he said the luxury of a primary is you get to vote for who's best. And he said the problem with the general is you only get to vote for who's better.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said you got to kind of hold your nose and realize that a primary, you get to be real principled. You can just vote. You can be very principled about your vote.
Yeah.
He said, but by the time you get to the general, you got to be real pragmatic about it.
Yeah.
You're not going to,
and you got to
You don't get what you want. You don't get what you want. You get what you get.
Yeah, exactly right.
And
that's why the primaries are so important.
Most people use.
Yeah, you're right about that. I appreciate it, Matt. Going to take a quick break. When we get back, more awful behavior. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Joey Hudson here. Start your day early on Sunrise, Carolina, tomorrow morning at 5 on News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
one number does it all.
800-905-0989.
This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
I think this is kind of a funny text over on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line. Charlie, did you ever get called Charlie Brown or Chuck? That would be kind of cute. Yeah, I would get called Charlie Brown, but interestingly enough, in school, nobody really called me Charlie Brown until this time of year, when everybody was watching a Charlie Brown Christmas. And so then all of a sudden, hey, it's Charlie Brown. And I was like, okay. And some people would call me Chuck. But interestingly enough, because most people know me as Charlie, but my closest friends call me Charles, and always have. You see, in high school, I demanded to be called Charles. Yes, you must call me Charles. That is my name. I am Charles. So there you go. So yeah, let's see, Chuck, Charlie, Chaz. Several people call me Chaz, which I kind of liked. I thought Chaz was pretty cool. But anyway, that's where we are. But you can just call me Charlie. In fact, you can call me anytime on the WRD talk line, 800-9050-989. Well, the awfuls out there. Why Charlie Brown? Somebody wants to know why Charlie Brown. I don't know. It's just because Charlie. I don't know. I wasn't bald back then, so that wasn't the issue. And I never wore a yellow shirt with a black zigzag on it. I don't know. So anyway, the awfuls out there are proving more and more every single day that they are really the worst among us. And if you're wondering what the awfuls are, they're the affluent, white, female, urban liberal, AWFUL. They are the biggest voting base for the Democrat Party. When you look at the uber liberals out there, the awfuls are them. That's what they are. George Orwell, in 1984, his book 1984, said this about women. And so I'm going to read this to you. And you tell me if it sounds right. It was always, he's talking about Big Brother. This is Winston Smith in George Orwell's 1984. Winston Smith works at the Ministry of Truth, for Big Brother. And he says, it was always the women, and above all, the young ones, who were the most bigoted adherents of the party, the swallowers of the slogans, the amateur spies and nosers out of unorthodoxy. It was always the women. They were the ones that were swallowing all of the propaganda. They were the most bigoted. They were the ones that were more interested in spying on their neighbors and telling on their neighbors than minding their own business. You see, that has not changed. That has not changed since George Orwell published 1984. None of that has changed. I tell you, I mean, it's been that way throughout history. Now, 1984 was published in 1949. So it was obviously true back then as well. It's always the women, particularly the young ones who were basically the most gullible to all of the ideology. And that, again, hasn't changed. Here we are, 2025, well past 1984. None of that has changed whatsoever. I want you to listen to Kentucky Representative Sarah Stalker. Just take a minute and let this sink in. Here we go.
I'm going to be honest. I don't feel good about being white every day for a lot of reasons. Because it's a point of privilege that I get to move through the world in a way that so many of my other colleagues and friends and family members of the community don't get the privilege to do. And I'm just a female, but just a woman, just a white woman. If I was a white man, I would be functioning from a point of an even greater privilege. I think we're missing an opportunity when kids have a moment to reflect about how the color of their skin does and does not allow them to move through the world. Running to them and trying to stifle that and trying to say you shouldn't feel bad, so we don't want to ever expose you to something that is going to make you have to pause and have maybe some internal feelings. It's a missed opportunity for some really good dialogue.
So basically what Sarah Stalker was saying is white children need to have the opportunity to feel bad about their skin color. Now, let me tell you exactly where this comes from. This comes from Ibram X. Kendi in his critical race theory. That is what that is from. Where if you've got a classroom and you took all the white kids and you put them over on the left-hand side of the room, and you took all the kids of color and you put them over on the right side of the room, you would look at the kids of color and you would say, you are the oppressed. And you would look over the white kids and you would say, and you are the oppressors. Now, let me ask you something. Who does that raise up? Who does that raise up? Does it raise up the kids of color? No, because you've just told them how oppressed they were. So it keeps them down. Then you look over the white kids and you go, and you're the oppressors. Does that raise them up? No, it keeps them down because nobody wants to be labeled an oppressor, right? You see, that's the thing about these bills. They want to share the misery, and there is plenty of it to go around. Plenty of it. Let's see. Let's go to Leah in Greenville. Leah, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to kind of make a comment what the guy said earlier about the Republicans getting in office. You know, they rally us all to go out and vote, but they don't get anything done. And, you know, like Nancy Pelosi or hate Nancy Pelosi, she gets it done. I mean, they get it done, and they go after us like crazy, and we just sit back and take it. And I know it is so frustrating.
So you know what that means, Leah? We got to find all the people who are just sitting back and taking it and make sure that they don't get elected again.
Like Lindsey Graham.
Well, hey, wait a minute. Lindsey Graham got in with 13.5% voter turnout. You going to tell me?
I know.
Right?
I know. It just blows me away.
So
I call his office weekly and just ream out the poor little intern. And I said, you need to make sure you deliver it in that same tone.
Well, that's the thing. You know, when people talk about what Congress isn't doing, I got to look at the electorate and say, what are they not doing?
Yes, because they're not doing their jobs either.
You're exactly right, Leah. I appreciate it. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
He's got a mic, a mission, and no time for nonsense. It's the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9
WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Charlie Speaks. You listen on your time. Get the show on demand. Text podcast to 800-905-0989. The Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
All right, let's go to the WRD talk line. We'll talk to Sita in Spartanburg. How you doing, Sita?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. What's up, man?
Well, every time the subject of the voting comes up, I'm like talking to the phone and never call, but I'm calling this time.
Okay.
Everybody does not think that all of these small elections are not important. They don't think they're important enough to bother to go to the polls.
Right.
But that guy running for dog catcher eventually has his eye on the next rung up to the mayor.
That's right.
And then the mayor wants to be the governor.
Yep.
And you keep going up the ladder, and sooner or later you have this bunch of people in there that are just there collecting paychecks.
Yeah.
And aren't really qualified or doing anything if they are qualified. And it's very frustrating.
It is. It is. But what's more frustrating is the fact that people just sit home and allow it to happen. You're exactly right, Cita. There's a guy, that's a great example. There's a guy down in Charleston. Nobody likes. I tell you what, this dude, I mean, he claims he's a Republican, but this is one of those people that just nobody likes and nobody's going to vote for, period. He has run for literally, when I say every elected office he could possibly try for, he has. He's even run for Soil and Water Commissioner. That was not an exaggeration. So whenever I use that term, Soil and Water Commissioner, I'm really thinking about that guy. He just wants to be an elected official. Because once you get to be an elected official, it's just an easier step up into the next office. And then the next office, and the next office. And pretty soon, you're running for governor, or you're running for House, or, state house, or whatever it is. It's just, these are just stepping stones for a lot of these people. Now, what he could do is just go find a business to get into and become successful at that. But he wastes his time on all of these campaigns that he knows he's not going to win. But he hopes he will, and maybe one day he will. But Sita's absolutely right. These are stepping stones for these people. So we've got to be very careful. I mean, why do you think we have? I mean, literally, so how do some of these people even get in office? Well, the number one thing you have to be able to do as a politician is talk a good game. That's number one. You could be the smartest guy in the room. You could have a 260 IQ. But if you can't take what's in your head and make it come out of your mouth in a way that people can understand it and that people can relate to, you're going nowhere. But even more important than relating to the voter is relating to the donors. You could promise the voters anything. You really could. When I get in office, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. And then when you don't accomplish that, what do you say? Well, those doggone Democrats, they stopped me from doing this, that, and the other thing. You got to reelect me so I can do this, that, and the other thing on the next term. Then I promise we'll get it done. That's the dialogue you have to have with voters. The dialogue you have to do with donors is, I'm going to make you money. I'm going to make you money. I'm going to do the things that you asked me to do. I'm going to put the people in the committee assignments that you want on there that will benefit you. You see, that when they run for office, they're really running for the vote of two different groups of people. The voters and the donors. But once they get in office, then their attention turns to the donors. Because with all of that money that those donors give you for your campaign, they can sway the voters. You see what a messed up system it is? You see what a messed up system it is? That's why it is incumbent on us to make darn sure that we get the right people in office. And the only way we do that is in the primaries. So we got Tom Tillis. I'm sorry, John. Well, we got Tom Tillis. Luckily, he's leaving. But we got John Thune over in the Senate. Now, from what I've heard, we've got about 100 bills. Now, I know everybody's upset with what the Congress is and is not doing and all of that, and rightfully so. You should be. But the House is actually getting some things done, where the Senate isn't getting things done. We have got so many bills that are locked up in the Senate right now, it's not even funny. We have had nothing passed about securing our elections. Absolutely nothing. But every now and again, John Thune's got to come out, and he's got to make some sort of a comment just to make you think he's doing his job. And if my board works, I'll have him for you right here.
And so I might just show you, this is what the GAO found, the Government Accountability Office, Mr. President. And this just came out literally just this last week. That Obamacare subsidies granted without documentation to 90% of fake accounts. So in other words, what the Government Accountability Office did is they ran an audit of the exchanges in which these insurance policies change hands and found that 90% of these fake accounts, Mr. President, were granted subsidies without documentation. And so we have spiraling healthcare costs, a program incredibly vulnerable, as is this is evidence, vulnerable to fraud and abuse. And again, Democrats are proposing that we do absolutely nothing.
Okay. Well, what's your proposal? I mean, you've only, how many years has it been since once we knew that Obamacare was a huge failure? What have you accomplished? We told you John Thune was the wrong man for Senate Majority Leader, and every single day he proves us. He proves us right. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
This is the Charlie James Show. The right talk. Now more than ever. On News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Charlie.
Let's talk.
It's the right talk.
Charlie.
Welcome. This is the Charlie James Show.
Now we're talking.
News Talk 98.9.
WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
I pledge for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
America is back.
Yes, sir. And apologies for the sound levels on that. I'm having some problems with my board here in the studio. It's pretty frustrating. So anyway, the big talking points right now, and here's what I believe is going to happen in the next coming weeks. Because remember, we've got another continuing resolution coming up in January. Yes, it just seems like it was just a few days ago that we had the longest government shutdown in American history. And a lot of it was because of something that the Democrats did with Obamacare. It was the Democrat COVID subsidies that they put in there. Now, these weren't Republican subsidies. In fact, Obamacare had nothing to do with the Republicans. But the Democrats want you to think that this is a Republican issue. Here's Democrat Representative Pete Aguilar.
Let's see what the 3-year plan delivers on the discharge side. I haven't heard specifically if Congressman Fitzpatrick and the other Democratic sponsors are ready to discharge their bill. So there's a couple steps here before we get to that point. But like Shamari said, look, the American people know that the Democratic Party supports health care. We want to deliver support to as many people as we can to avoid this catastrophic cliff that Republicans have created.
No, Republicans did not create this cliff. These subsidies, remember, were not there until COVID. And then the Democrats put these COVID subsidies in place, and they set the deadline for them to expire. This is 100% on them. 100%. Listen to Amy Klobuchar.
Republicans can't kick this problem down the road to January. It's not a January problem. It's not a February problem. It's a now problem. So we have once again offered a straightforward solution. Obviously, there's many more things we would do to reform our healthcare system and make it more affordable. But right now, to stem this disaster and crisis that Donald Trump has created by refusing to do anything about extending the tax credits for the Affordable Care Act, we are saying right now we can do this.
Okay, again, their problem 100%. Republicans were blocked out of any negotiations on Obamacare. Remember Nancy Pelosi saying we got to pass it before we can see what's in it? Republicans were allowed to be in the meetings, but they weren't allowed to speak in the meetings when they were allowed in. Democrats were in charge of the subsidies. Democrats set the expiration date. And now they want to make this out like it's a Republican problem. But this is by design. So what was Aguilar talking about a 3-year deal? I believe that what the Republicans are going to do, now think about this for a second. In order to save their rear ends in the primaries coming up and in the general election in November, in the midterm elections, they are going to agree to a 3-year extension on the Obamacare COVID subsidies. Now, what will that do? That will take the weight off their shoulders, according to them, for the midterm elections, right? But what else would they do? What else is coming up in 3 years? We got another presidential election coming up. And this is going to be another political football. And they're going to keep kicking it back and forth. And I believe, like I said, I believe the Republicans are going to roll over and play dead on this one, like we've gotten used to them doing. Well, Senate Majority Leader John Thune said today that Republicans intend, what is the road to hell paved with? Good intentions? Republicans intend to put up a GO-led health care bill for a vote alongside Democrats' proposal to extend Enhanced Affordable Care Act tax credits later this week. He said this program desperately needs to be reformed. The Democrats have decided we're not going to do anything to reform it, and so we'll see where the votes are on Thursday. Oh, okay. But we will have an alternative that we will put up that reflects the views of the Republicans here in the United States Senate. The legislation named the Healthcare Freedom for Patients Act does not extend enhanced tax credits. Instead, it would redirect funds to health savings accounts for those who use bronze plans or state exchanges. It actually does make health insurance premiums more affordable, he said. It delivers the benefit directly to the patient, not to the insurance company. And it does it in a way that actually saves money to the taxpayer. That's a win-win proposal. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I had somebody send me an email last night talking about how high their premiums have gone. Well, you got to understand, if you're just on insurance and you're not on Obamacare, you're not on one of these exchanges, all of this stuff they're talking about really doesn't affect you. But what we really need to be looking at is, you see, they always tackle the problem with who's going to pay for it. I mean, all you got to do is look at the cost of college education, what they've done about that. Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for these loans? How come nobody ever goes to the source and says, hey, Mr. Hospital, why are you charging $700 for a bag of saline that costs $2 to produce? Can you explain that to the, your customers in the healthcare system? Can you explain why a $2 bag of saline cost over $700? Those are the problems we got to tackle. Because ultimately the cost remains the same. But it's who pays for it. That's who is really the debate on. I mean, like I said, it's the same thing for college education. Nobody goes to these colleges and says, hey, Clemson, yeah, you're pretty expensive there. Why don't you cut your tuition by 30%? Make it more affordable. That will never happen. But they always look at these problems as who is going to pay for it. And when the person who benefits from it says they can't afford to pay for it, then that burden gets transferred to you and me, the taxpayer. Not about you guys, but I'm pretty sick of it. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
15 minutes of breaking news and stimulating talk begins every hour, every afternoon on the Charlie James Show.
News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas. Tap and type your message on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line.
800-905-0989. This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I kind of feel bad about this. Charlie, I love your show. My granddaughter and I, she's really my daughter, listen to you all the time. And she went to school and told the teacher the example of a politician is Mr. Farts in Mouth. I busted out laughing. Oh, no, Charlie's not a good role model. Sorry about that. Let's go to Barbara in Anderson. Barbara, welcome. How are you?
Oh, my God, I'm laughing over that.
Isn't that amazing?
Hey, so, Charlie, you were talking about the $700 towards the saline, the $2 saline bag.
Yeah, right.
And I moved down here from New Jersey, and there was a big thing going on because Rutgers charges like astronomical fees for their university.
Yeah.
And they paid $250,000 for a table in their conference room.
Yeah.
That was made in China.
Yeah.
And it's like, and why did you need that? You know, why can't you get something less expensive and drop some of the tuitions?
Well, they don't. No, they have to have the best of the best. I mean, just look at all these hospitals out there. Do you think they really cut corners on these hospitals?
Oh, no.
No.
It's like, I was in the military, so, you know, at least they don't have the $500 toilet seats anymore.
Yeah, at least. I appreciate it, Barbara. Thank you very much. Well, there's a lot of talk in Congress now about just how these people get so unbelievably wealthy. Unbelievably wealthy. On what, $140,000, $160,000 a year? I mean, just think about that for a second. You go into Congress, you're making like I said, $160,000 a year, kind of. How long do you think it would take you, with all of the expenses, you know, running a two-family household? You got to have a little place in D.C., you got to have a place in your district, got to have, you know, your officer can be paid by other funds. They get allocations for that. But how long do you think it would be for you to become a millionaire? Or even more importantly, a multi-millionaire? Well, let me tell you something, folks. Statistically, it can't be done on that salary. Statistically, I mean, you cannot become a multi-millionaire on a congressman or woman's salary. It's virtually impossible. I don't care if you live like a pauper. It's impossible. So how are these people becoming multimillionaires? Well, they invest in the stock market, just like Nancy Pelosi did. Now, what they want you to believe is that they don't do insider trading. And I'll tell you why. Because they try to differentiate between insider trading and what they do. So insider trading is something like this. I got a friend of mine that runs JJ's Manufacturing, and JJ's Manufacturing just got it's a public company, and they just got a patent on a new revolutionary piece of equipment. It's just going to change the industry. And they call me up and they go, "Hey, Charlie, we got this thing coming out. You're going to want to invest in this. Nobody else knows about this. I'm letting you know first. We got this coming up. Go ahead and put all your money in this company." And you do that. Well, that's illegal. When you use information that nobody else has about a company, that's insider trading, and that's illegal, and for good reason. The people in Congress say that what they do isn't insider trading. Because, you see, they're not getting their information directly from the corporation or that board of directors or that company's president. So, therefore, it's not insider trading. But what they do know is this. There was a company here recently that just signed a huge $600 million government contract. Now, if you are on that committee that approved all of that going through and helped write up that contract, you know that company's about to get $600 million, a $600 million injection into their bottom line. So what do? You go and invest in that corporation. And that happens every single day. Every single day. And people are getting sick and tired of it. In fact, Annapolina Luna was on with Jesse Waters. Listen to what she said.
I just heard from Hakeem Jeffries that he doesn't want to have his Democrats sign on to the legislation, even though 100 members of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, have actually said that they want to support this coalition bill because of the fact that it doesn't include the executive branch. But here's an interesting fact, Jesse. If Congress was required to adhere to the same standards that the executive branch is under, there would be no insider trading. And it is happening on both sides, and it needs to end. And so I'm formally calling on both Speaker Johnson and Hakeem Jeffries to do what they can, huddle if you need be, but come up with a consensus bill and put it on the floor before the end of the year, because 87% of Americans want this to end, and it has to for the sacred sanctity of our country.
All right, so and she's absolutely right. 87%, polls done, 87% of Americans think there should be no insider trading in Congress. And what are they going to do about it? Prediction? Nothing. Let's go to Sam in Greer. Sam, welcome.
Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Sam.
You know, going back to your earlier segment about people getting out and voting in the primary, these are going to be the same people that go out and complain about the roads, complain about the money's not being spent where it needs to be. You know, if you don't get out and vote in the primaries where the elections are won in the primaries, if you're not going to get out and vote, then just go down to Walmart, buy you some shocks, and just deal with the roads.
Yeah, deal with it. You're exactly right. But people don't want to do that. They just want to complain about what's not getting done when what's not getting done is voting. Let's go to Joe in Rock Hill. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, Charlie. It's Joe from Rock Hill.
Hey,
you
bud.
must remember me because I'm from Rhode Island.
Hey, I'm just about to talk about Rhode Island. What's up, buddy?
I just want to tell you the answer is term limits.
Yeah.
The Constitution was never, our founders never wanted to have professional politicians. You go to work in Congress for a couple of terms, you come home and go back to your farm. This whole professional politician thing is what's driving everybody crazy.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. But do you think these people are ever going to vote themselves term limits?
No,
No.
and they're not going to vote themselves on the insider trading.
Right.
Because once you get elected, it's a cash cow.
Well, that's what Dan Crenshaw said. Dan Crenshaw said, and this is a close paraphrasing of what he said, there has to be some perks.
Yeah. I mean, I knew representatives in Rhode Island who went from being house painters to being millionaires.
Yeah, exactly
Spent
right.
3 terms in Congress.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, I'm a conservative, but I think both parties, you know.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Dip
Definitely.
into the trough.
You're right about that, Joe. You're right, and I appreciate it. Getting back to what Sam was talking about in Rhode Island, my mother-in-law, who we're going to go see very soon, she is always complaining about how much money she has to pay because of regulations from the city of Westerly and Washington County in which she lives. And she's like, why is they always want some money? And I'm 91 years old and I shouldn't have to pay. And I just say, hey, Edie, you voted Democrat your whole life. This is what you get. Of course, I don't say that. I think it. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Not just chatter, local issues that matter. This is the Charlie James Show
On News Talk 98.9 WORD.
the voice of the Carolinas.
Chat with Charlie.
800-905-0989. Save it on your phone.
This is the Charlie James Show, only on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
All right, welcome back to the program. Let's go to Neil up there in North Carolina and talk to him. Neil, what's going on, man?
Founding fathers had no plans for politicians to get rich.
No.
And there's a little-known fact that when John Adams finished up his second term, he was broke.
Yeah.
And he had to hang out his law shingle and work until way into before he had enough money to get back home.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, it's either service or self, and very few people are getting into Congress right now for service. Very few. There's only one politician that I can tell you has absolutely lost money while he's been in office, and that's Donald Trump.
I'm sure of that.
Right.
Also, somebody mentioned, two-term limits, term limits and so on, and then up for debate how many years we've sat on there. There is a solution for that, and it's in the works. We're about a third of the way there, and that's the Article 5 convention.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about that.
The states have pushed for it.
How many? Do you know offhand how many states have signed up for the Convention of States?
I keep getting notifications from them. It's 20 some odd now, 21, 23, somewhere in there.
Somewhere. That's what I keep thinking. But you're exactly right, Neil. I appreciate it. But listen, left to their own devices, the members of Congress aren't going to do anything. And we're talking about from the State House in Columbia all the way up to Washington, D.C. They're not going to do anything to their own detriment. They just refuse to do that. They're not going to enact term limits. Do not get your hopes up for closed primaries here in South Carolina. They're not going to vote to stop insider trading. They're never going to put restrictions on themselves, even though each and every day they go to work and they put restrictions on you. Now, over on the Democrat side, when I tell you they hate America, a lot of people go, listen to what old Charlie said. He said them Democrats hate America. That ain't true. It is true. I want you to listen to Hank Johnson, the dumbest member of Congress. Hank Johnson was the guy that thought if we put too many troops, no joke, this is an actual thing, Hank Johnson thought if we put too many troops on Guam, it would capsize. He actually said that. And I'll never forget the look on the Admiral's face when he said it. So, anyway, here's what Hank Johnson had to say over on Sirius XM Radio.
We are the world's #1 bully, and we're using our immense, unrivaled power to rule over those who have less power. And we're doing it with impunity. And this sends a shocking message to the world that America is indeed what did they used to call the great hand of Satan or something like that?
Yeah, that's what Hank Johnson thinks about the United States of America. That we are the bullies of the world and we are the great Satan. Pretty amazing, isn't it, how they think? But when I tell you that they hate this country, I mean it. And probably nobody out there hates this country more than one young lady who is running for Senate in Texas than Jasmine Crockett. This woman is an absolute disaster. Want you to listen to a challenge that she put out. Let's take a listen to Jasmine Crockett.
I challenge somebody to go and find a clip of a Democrat invoking violence.
Huh. Okay. Challenge accepted.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized right up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I mean, and it goes on and on and on, Jasmine Crockett. The Democrats are the violent ones. Let's go to Joe in Anderson, see if we can get him. Joe, welcome. How are you?
I'm all right, Charlie. Hope you are.
Yes, sir. What's going on?
Good. A caller mentioned the Convention of States.
Yeah.
And I've heard about that for a long time, but I'm ignorant. And I'm just wondering what is required. Who brings that about?
You know what?
How is that done?
Well, here's what I would like to do, Joe, because I'm kind of like you. I am not all up to date on the Convention of States. I've been hearing about it for a long time, but like you, I can't get a really good definition. I would like to get somebody on the program here in the next very short while and really fully explain what the Convention of States do, how we get there, and how we go about doing it. Because every time I mention it, you know the number one response I get? The Convention of States is going to cause a civil war. Well, I know every single time, Joe, but I'll have to get somebody on.
In other words, they don't want it to happen.
Yeah, exactly right. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. But I'm going to try to get somebody on very, very soon to fully explain the Convention of States. I got 10 minutes. Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you very much. All right, WRD Talk Line 800-9050-989. That's also the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line. When we get back, do you mind if I talk a little inside radio for a minute? Maybe give you a little insight into the biz? It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
15 minutes of breaking news and stimulating talk begins every hour, every afternoon on The Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas. Interact on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line.
800-905-0989. Text or call. One number does it all.
800-905-0989.
This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Well, can you believe on the 23rd, it is going to be my 5th year anniversary here on WORD? Yeah, 5 years. Boy, that has flown by fast. I've been in radio going on, 35, 36, 37 years now. And throughout my time in the industry, I've served some roles. I mean, I always drift back to talk radio, but I've also been a country music DJ. I won the Academy of Country Music's Radio Personality of the Year. I've been an operations manager. I've been a program director. And you learn a lot about the industry over the years. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that when music stations play music, they actually have to pay for the privilege of doing so. Now, they send money every year to a couple of companies one's called ASCAP and one's called BMI. And the money that they distribute the money to the songwriter. Whoever writes the song, they get, in some cases they get like maybe a nickel a play or something like that, but it adds up. And a lot of these people make a good living doing that, and rightfully so, they should. But there's been a call over the past few years for not only the writers to be paid for it, but for the performers to be paid for it, and for the people who own the rights to the music to be paid for it. Now, while that may sound like a good idea, in fact, Gene Simmons from KISS addressed Congress the other day, and he was talking about this, how radio stations ought to be paying royalties to the people who own the copyrights and the performers. All right, maybe it sounds like a good idea, but when you consider this, every time a radio station plays a song by a performer, that is literally a 3-minute commercial for that album. That's what it is. It is a 3-minute commercial for that album. And you get music company reps every single day. As a program director, half of your day is talking to music company reps. Hey, Charlie, this is Mike over at Broken Bow. Hey, we got a new single out. It's going to be a big hit. Can we get this on a good rotation on your station? Yeah, we'd really appreciate it. They'll come into town, take you to lunch, schmooze you, and things like that. But they really want you to play that music so that those albums will sell. If we were to do this, and people like Marsha Blackburn are behind this, if this passes, if this becomes a thing, it will literally ruin terrestrial radio. It will destroy it. You can forget about tuning in to your favorite, hip-hop station or your favorite pop station or whatever it is. You can forget about that because they're not going to be able to afford to pay. I mean, how many songs do they play an hour? Let's just take a look at maybe a basic morning rotation where they play maybe 12 songs an hour. And we're talking about local stations, not really the big guys who don't play any music at all. But, you do 12 songs an hour. That's going to add up. And it will literally destroy radio. Now, the whole argument is because of streaming. They got mad because people were streaming this music, and they weren't paying ASCAP, they weren't paying BMI, and they were like, hey, we need to be compensated in some way. Well, fine, go after the streamers. I don't care. But leave terrestrial radio alone, because terrestrial radio, as we saw during Hurricane Helene, as we see during most natural disasters, when people are on the go, maybe they're getting out of town, maybe they're evacuating or whatever, radio is where people turn to. Because why? Some of these cell towers may be down. some of these internet providers may be down. And you can't get a signal that way. Most people, especially like during Hurricane Helene, I mean, they had nothing. They had no cellular service. They had no satellite service. They had virtually nothing but terrestrial radio. And if a bill like this passes, it will literally be the death knell for the music radio industry. And that's a shame. It really is. Now, I don't know how much money Gene Simmons has, but I'm pretty sure he's got plenty. So now now what you're literally looking at is a bunch of millionaires and multimillionaires asking for more money. When for years and years and years, they begged for their music to get on radio. Back when KISS was in its heyday, they were calling up radio stations, begging them to play their music. Well, even before their heyday, when they were first getting out, maybe you go out back to, I don't know, maybe Love Gun or Kiss Alive 1, they were begging people to play that music. And now that they've made their money, now they want even more. So, going to be pretty interesting to see what happens with this. Really is. Charlie, congratulations, I guess, on my 5 years. We are lucky to have you in the upstate. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Charlie, we need 34 states to pass a Convention of States resolution, and we currently have 19. South Carolina is one of them. Thank you very much. I say, Charlie, that's what billionaires do, Charlie. It's never enough for them. Yeah, you're probably right. Probably right about that. But again, I understand the sentiment, but in reality, people like Gene Simmons and all of these folks, they would literally be cutting their nose off to spite their face. Okay, when we get back, North Carolina, you guys have some real, serious problems. And I'm talking about you've got some serious problems in regards to your Muslim community. I want you to listen to what this cleric says in North Carolina about marriage. It's going to blow your mind. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Keeping Carolina conservative. It's the Charlie James Show.
News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Hello. Yes.
Hey, Charlie.
Let's talk.
It's the right talk.
Charlie.
Welcome. This is the Charlie James Show.
Now we're talking.
News Talk 98.9.
WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Well, we here at News Talk 98.9 WORD, we have been 100,000 watts for good gracious. JJ, can you remember how long it's been? Was it 2023, the end of 2023? We did that sometime? I mean, that's a good bit of a time. And since we have changed that switch and upgraded to 100,000 watts up there on Hogback Mountain, we have got an amazing signal. And we have been getting well into the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. Well, they've got a talk station in Charlotte. So let me ask you a question. Do they have any flamethrowers on that station in Charlotte? I mean, do they have any of their personalities, those that go, man, did you hear that guy? Does anybody say, I mean, like Tara, like every day, oh, did you hear Tara this morning? Did you hear that? So, yeah. So, I mean, they don't. That talk station up in Charlotte is about as milquetoast and as purple as Charlotte is. Nobody is there throwing fire at that radio station. So we've been creeping in on their territory. And more people have been listening in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. So they thought, hey, here's what we'll do. We'll increase our signal. So they're switching their signal. Hey, guys, I hate to tell you, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. As long as you keep serving up lukewarm content, nobody's going to care. I mean, after all, what was your latest ratings? A 3.3? Yeah, you need to do something. Maybe get a little more testosterone on the station. That would help you out a great deal. So, with that, you would think that they would be really hitting hard on some of the things that are going on in North Carolina, and they've got some problems. I want you to listen to what this, and let me tell you something. If this happened in my community, I would be raising hell. Want you to listen to what this imam says in North Carolina. Let's take a listen to this. Oh, get ready.
If a father is loving and wanting to marry and give his daughter in marriage to someone who is righteous, well, if the prophet is here, everyone would love to do that and give his daughter to the prophet, peace be upon him. So there is nothing wrong with that. That's their culture. You cannot measure your culture to their culture. In the U.S., go to the history. You will find the age of marriage sometimes was 9 years old, and everyone can search now on the internet. It can be 9 years old, 8 years old. It doesn't matter if in that community it's okay and there's no physical harm, there's no harm, psychological harm, and there's no problem, and it is by consent of all parties. What's the issue with that?
Okay. Was that a legitimate question? Do you want to know the issue that I have with that? Well, here's the issue that I have with that. Because you said if a loving father wants to marry off his 9-year-old daughter to a righteous man and all parties consent, what's the issue with that? My big issue is a 9-year-old girl cannot consent to anything. She is a child. She is a child. She cannot make those decisions. That's like somebody saying they've got a vegan cat. You know it wasn't the cat's decision. A 9-year-old girl cannot consent to marriage. Now, he does point out a case here in the United States. In fact, this was in Tennessee back in 1937. A young girl, 9 years old, she lied. She said she was 11. Her name was Eunice Winstead. She was legally married to a 22-year-old man named Charles Towns in 2020 in Tennessee in 1937. At that time, Tennessee had no minimum age for marriage because they thought, well, certainly people aren't going to be marrying 9-year-olds, right? Well, one did. And once word of that came out, people said, you know what, that's wrong. So we created laws. Each state has a different age of consent. But we created laws in this country against children getting married. Now, does it happen? In some communities, absolutely it does. But in the vast majority of America, children are not allowed to marry. And men that want to marry children of that age, we consider them pedophiles, which is exactly what they are. Let's go to Lucas in Piedmont. Lucas, welcome.
Charlie, I can't believe you're making fun of an entire culture. It's so racist.
Right. I know. Oh, it's terrible, isn't it? Good. Can you believe that?
Well, no, just imagine, whenever there's the idea, and of course, it's a lot of people don't really look at it this way anymore, but, the Imam is correct. There's a history of, every culture, not just the United States, of marrying younger women off to an older male, but of course we've grown and we've logicked through it a little bit better.
Exactly, yeah.
But I mean, just imagine, if this was a Christian preacher who was saying, if your 16-year-old daughter wants to marry an 18, 19, 20-year-old guy, everybody loses their mind on the left because they're like, oh, this is borderline pedophilia.
Yeah.
And, when you've got LGBTQ community that's trying to say, parents should be hands off on their children. Let them decide what they want to do. If they want to get a surgery that completely mutilates their body or get hormones that can't be reversed and their puberty mindset is completely screwed up for their life.
Yeah. That's
but
it.
Then,
but that's it.
but
That's the
everybody's
best
like,
way.
This is grooming and borderline pedophilia. And they're like, you're grabbing at straws, Charlie.
You're a bigot. You're a bigot because you're right about that, Lucas. But listen to this. This also happened in North Carolina. This was the Chapel Hill Carborough City Schools. Listen to what they're forcing into the classrooms.
First, Santa's husband. This book tells the story of Santa, his husband, and their life at the North Pole. And I want to assure everyone this is the true story of Mr. and Mr. Claus. Is this approved? Is this what you're telling the children to read? Is this okay in your guidance?
I'm not aware that book is.
You're the superintendent. You're not aware of what's going on in your school system? You don't know what's printed? It's trash. That's what good that is. Here's a great one here. These are my eyes. This is my nose. This is my vulva. These are my toes. I'm going to read a passage for you out of it. This is for your school. Some boys have a penis, but not all boys do. To always use your manners, may I ask what I can call you? This is damn trash. Pure trash you're putting to these children. And again, here we go. It isn't rude to be nude for 4-year-olds.
4-year-olds. See how they wanted to get to the children? We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Hey, it's Tara. I do the homework and give you the facts every morning starting at 6 on The Tara Show, only on News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Charlie Speaks. You listen on your time. Get the show on demand. Text podcast to 800-905-0989. The Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
And welcome back to the program. Let's go to the WRD talk line. We'll talk to Kirk in Rock Hill. How you doing, Kirk?
Hey, I really like President Trump's affordability speech.
Yeah?
He talked about everything except affordability.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, Kirk, because I'll tell you who did talk about affordability, Mr. Call-In Guy. How are those testosterone treatments going for you? Let's take a listen to what CNBC said about affordability.
But the affordability issue is from the 22% increase in prices and inflation under Biden. There's just full stop right there. That's the affordability issue. And you ought to be able to explain that better.
Right. That's right. And look, I think that with the economic team, President Trump and the economic team led by Scott Bessent, you have people who very much understand this. And it was they were thrown, what I would say, the worst economy for the average American in my adult lifetime in terms of like you said, the incredible increase in prices at the household.
And they're exactly right. Over at CNBC, Mr. Calling Guy, the affordability issue was caused by Joe Biden. Your guy, the guy that you voted for and would have voted for again if his doddering old behind didn't mess up into the debate so bad and they forced him out. Because what was it called? The Affordable Care Act, not the Affordable Care Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, which did anything but reduce inflation. In fact, it did quite the opposite. It increased it. How do we know that? Because Jim Clyburn actually said it was designed to increase inflation. And Jim Clyburn, which is another reason that his district needs to be done away with, Jim Clyburn said, well, what's the problem with it? Remember Janet Yellen? Remember, this is just the perception of the American people, and the economy is so strong right now under this president. When they all knew that it was a disaster, and they lied about it and lied about it and lied about it, and people like Mr. Calling Guy, they just opened their gullet and swallowed it down whole. But they knew. They knew what was going on. The Inflation Reduction Act was nothing but a renamed version of the Green New Deal. That's all it was. But now what are they complaining about? Well, what's being done under Donald Trump? You don't do away with 4 years of disaster in 12 months. So what Scott Bessent is actually saying, and by the way, President Trump has put Scott Bessent in charge of affordability, there is a huge possibility that we're going to start seeing some very big changes coming up in January, going into the new year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that will be the case. But see, that's all they want to do. They want to blame Donald Trump. Look at all of the things that they blame Donald Trump for, and all of the things that have gone by the wayside, by the way. But I will admit that the president and his team, they need to do a better job, just like they said over at CNBC, of explaining to the American people exactly why we are in the position that we're in. The price of gas down dramatically. The price of eggs down dramatically. Price of beef, well, we still got some issues there. But this is not a Trump problem. Is it a Trump responsibility? Absolutely. He has got to get a handle on this, and hopefully Scott Bessent is actually going to do that. So you had Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They were the ones, and the members of Congress, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, the whole gang, Hakeem Jeffries, they were the ones that voted for that Inflation Reduction Act, and it did not reduce inflation. But you know what? For all of her work, I had to chuckle. Kamala Harris thinks she's going to get a statue. I'm not even making that up. I'm not even making that up. Kamala Harris thinks she deserves, oh, sorry about that. Kamala Harris thinks she deserves a bust of herself in Congress. She calls herself a historic figure who will have a marble bust. Yeah. One of the most, oh my goodness. Ms. Harris made it clear she doesn't feel burdened. Yes, she uses that phrase by where she fits into the punditry pecking order of the polls of the cable chyrons. She is enjoying the freedom from what she calls transactional constrictions of campaigning, of asking people for a vote. She now says that she was so transformational, so transitional in her role as Vice President of the United States that they're going to create a marble bust for her in the halls of Congress. Yeah, man, this woman's got an ego on her. There's nothing more pathetic than a mediocre person with a huge ego. And you can always tell who they are. So it really is amazing. I mean, this is a woman that was the border czar, did nothing about the border, only visited the border, or should I say, went near the border once. She actually landed at the airport in El Paso and did not leave the airport. She was in charge of, she was the broadband czar, and she was supposed to get rural communities connected to broadband. To date, none of those were connected under their program. I mean, massive failure after massive failure. She's even extending her book tour now. Yeah, what is it, 107 days? Her book tour has been longer than a campaign. So she's going out and because she's got to sell more books, because she wants more money. And she thinks she's going to run for president again? No, that ain't going to happen. When we get back, they have found in our government, in just one department, 2,000 ghost employees. Do you believe in ghosts? We'll tell you all about that coming up. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Grit, truth, and a whole lot of common sense. It's the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9
WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Fingers do the talking.
Text the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line at 800-905-0989.
This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
WRD Talk Line. Well, Dr. Ken, he's down there in horse country. Aiken, how you doing, Ken?
Okay. I'm going to do the bust for Kamala.
Okay.
There's going to be a special feature.
Yeah.
The nose. Pokino. Pinocchio.
Yeah, you're right. That would be somebody needs. Ken, thank you for that idea. I appreciate it. I'm going to get ChatGPT to get to work on that. A marble bust of Kamala Harris with a very long Pinocchio nose. I'm going to do that during the next break, and I'll post it over on my Twitter page. If you guys aren't following me over on Twitter, X, I would certainly love for you to do so. I'm at Charlie on Air. That's at Charlie on Air. I'm there on Twitter. I'm there. This is the same handle at Charlie on Air over on Instagram, and the same one over on TikTok. Yes, I am on TikTok as well. So follow me on all of those places. I really would appreciate that. Well, we know when and I read a survey one time, and it said that if you took all of the federal employees, all of the employees that work for our federal government, and you put them in one state, that state would be the third largest state in the union. Third largest. We're talking, it would be California, Texas, and the state of federal workers. That's a lot of people. And when you get that many people, basically the vast majority of them unsupervised, you can certainly imagine that there's a lot of corruption going on. Am I right about that? Of course I am. And now that DOJ went in and they were doing their digging, and we've got the DOJ committee in Washington, they are finding abuse after abuse after abuse. And when you look at what's going on just in Minnesota, with all of the fraud that's going on there, and I do believe, I'm not real sure if Tim Walz is going to survive this. Now, he's very upset because people are driving past his house using the R word, as he calls it. But, I mean, come on. When you're overseeing a state, and that state was bilked and defrauded of over $8 billion, you need to step down. That was your responsibility. Let me ask you, if that happened here in South Carolina, how many of you guys would be calling for Henry McMaster's resignation? I would be one of those people doing that. I would be one. But you got to look at the governor. You got to look at the state treasurer. You got to look at all of these NGOs that are going on in Minnesota and realize that's by the way, they just came up with a $3 billion deficit in their budget. And nobody asked why? Because all of that money was being pilfered primarily by these Somalian NGOs. So, yeah, lots of corruption going on. But there's also corruption going on in other places as well, federally. I want you to listen to this report. It's pretty interesting.
$800 million of waste, fraud, and abuse that we cut out of departments of government, which includes 2,000 ghost employees. These are fake workers that they were using to pad programs, wasteful grant programs, all kinds of waste, fraud, and abuse. The economic development programs we discussed, we cut it. There's another $4 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse. When we made those permanent cuts to waste, fraud, and abuse, we forced them to be permanently dedicated to roads.
So here's the thing, though. The single biggest problem we have in this country, as far as waste, fraud, and abuse is concerned, is NGOs. When you can get, Stacey Abrams takes $100, which is the minimum to open a checking account, and she starts an NGO with $100. And then all of a sudden the Biden administration gives her a grant for $2 billion? Tell me that is on the up and up. Tell me there's no grift going on there, because there absolutely is. And it's always the American taxpayer that has to pay for this stuff. We need to get, I tell you what, if you want to talk to somebody about these NGOs, I guess about a month ago, I was at dinner with Curtis Loftus, and we were talking about these NGOs. The unbelievable power that they have in controlling policy in this country is mind-boggling. And these are not people that got elected. We did not go to the polls and vote for these people to set policy here in our country. That is what our elected officials are going to do. But they have so much power that they have a vast, huge amount of control over our politicians. Now, here's what I believe, because here's how it works. Here's how it works. These NGOs, let's say, and we'll just take that, the plan to spend $1.5 million on pastry classes for Haitian male prostitutes, and that's a real thing. They wanted to do that. So you give that $1.5 million to an NGO, and then they give it, and they take their share, and then they pass it on to the next NGO, who takes their share, who passes on to the next NGO, who takes their share, and by the time it gets to the people they're supposed to be getting to, there's nothing left. And then all of those NGOs, they go back and they make campaign contributions to their favorite Democrat political candidate. I believe it should be a law that NGOs cannot make political contributions. People like Planned Parenthood should not be able to contribute to campaigns. No non-government organization should be able to make campaign contributions to people that benefit them. Well, that sounds like common sense, which is exactly why something like that will never pass. Coming up in just a few minutes, you are not going to believe what they're doing in Australia. And remember, they always try to bring in socialism. They always try to bring in control under the guise of safety. That's how they get you. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
15 minutes of non-stop breaking news and stimulating talk jumpstarts every hour on the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9
WORD,
the voice of the Carolinas.
The following segment was paid for by Mark Lynch for Senate.
All right, Mark Lynch is running to be the next senator from the state of South Carolina, and he joins us right now. Mark, welcome. Hope you're doing well.
Thank you for having me on, Charlie. I wanted to talk about what it means to be America first.
That's interesting because the White House
It's
One number does it all.
800-905-0989.
This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
And welcome back to the program. Socialism, communism, Marxism, they never brand it as what it is. I mean, Coca-Cola does not brand themselves, hey, drink Coca-Cola, a caramel-colored, super sweetened, carbonated beverage. No, they don't do that. Do they? No, that's not branding. It's, I'd like to buy the world a Coke. Right? That's how it's a lifestyle. That's how they always brand it. It's a lifestyle. See, when people are trying to sell you something, they're never selling you what they say you're selling. They're selling. They're trying to get you to react emotionally to it. And the best way to sell communism, socialism, Marxism is by fear. That's the best way. We're seeing this right now in this country. I mean, everybody's going, oh, the Republicans are they're trying to take away your health care benefits. Oh, people are going to die if you don't vote for the Democrats. And they're doing that in Australia. Down in Australia, they've got a plan to ban all people from social media under the age of 16. That's what they're trying to do down there. But it's not about that. It's not about children's safety. It's not about looking after the kids. It's about control. Can children and teenagers be forced off social media en masse? Well, Australia is about to find out. More than 1 million social media accounts held by users under 16 are said to be deactivated in Australia coming up, today. Today. This is the first ban that has inflamed a culture war and is being closely watched right here in the United States and elsewhere. Social media companies, this is from NBC, social media companies will have to take, quote unquote, reasonable steps. Here's where they're sneaking it in. Reasonable steps to ensure that under 16s in Australia cannot set up accounts on their platforms and that existing accounts are deactivated or removed. Australian officials said the landmark ban, which lawmakers swiftly approved late last year, is meant to protect children from addictive social media platforms that experts say can be disastrous for their mental health. With one law, we can protect Generation Alpha, is that what they're calling them now? Generation Alpha from being sucked into purgatory by predatory algorithms described by the man who created the feature of the feature as behavioral cocaine, communications minister Anika Wells. While many parents and even their children have welcomed the ban, others say it will hinder young people's ability to express themselves and connect with others, as well as access online support that is crucial for those from marginalized groups or living on isolated parts of rural Australia. Supporters say the rest of the world will soon follow the example set by the Australian ban, which faces fierce resistance from social media companies. So what do they want you to do? They want you to prove, now remember, this sounds incredibly familiar. Who else was calling for this? Oh, yeah, that's right, Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley was calling for something much like this, saying that you had to prove who you were on social media. Well, how do you do that? How do you prove who you are on social media? Oh, your laptop has a little camera on it? Hold up your ID. Hold up your ID. What they really want to do is not just ban children from being on the internet. They want to monitor internet activity by everybody, especially social media. They want to know what you post. They want to know when you posted it. They want to know why you posted it. And they want to know with what attitude you posted it. This is not about the children. It's not about their safety. It's not about their protection. It's about controlling the population. So all all of these memes about the tough Australians, forget it. Not working anymore. You have proven that that's not the case. You've already given up your guns. Now you're giving up everything else. When are you guys going to wise up? Yeah, they never, ever tell you exactly what their plans are. And that's by design. Because if you knew what their plans were, you run them out of office pretty darn quickly. Well, we'll see what happens with that. That ban's set to go into implementation today. When we get back, who says the president can't fire agency heads? We'll talk about it. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
You've stepped into the Upstate Talk Octagon. A few left jabs and a lot of right uppercuts. It's the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Let me set the record straight.
Hey, Charlie.
Let's talk.
It's the right talk.
Charlie.
Welcome. This is the Charlie James Show.
Now we're talking.
News Talk 98.9.
WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
All right, welcome back to the program. Let's go to the WRD Talk line. We'll talk to Janice in Gastonia. How you doing, Janice?
I'm doing fine, Charlie. I hope you're doing well. Miss Day.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. What's up?
Well, talking about Australia, that's definitely kind of like a Trojan horse or smoking mirrors or sleight of hand, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But anyway, I just want to say the only ism I support is patriotism, which is God, self, community, and country.
Yeah, exactly right. They support communism, Marxism, socialism. You're exactly right, Janice. We only support patriotism. Let's go to Jarrett in Morgantown. How you doing, Jarrett?
I'm good, Charlie. Morgantown.
Morgantown, apologies. What's on your mind?
Not much. I wanted to call and tell you happy anniversary on your 5-year anniversary.
Oh, thank you very much. That's coming up on the 23rd, but I appreciate the early well wishes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and you have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you. You do.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
You too, Jared. I appreciate it. All of that's coming up 5 years ago on the 23rd, first full-time show here on WORD, and I liked it so much that I did that show on the 23rd and immediately took a week off. I mean, that's how good it was. That's how good it was. So they were like, "Can you start on the 23rd?" And I said, "Yeah, but I've already asked for that week off." So yeah, I forget what we were doing. We're doing something special that week. So anyway, but yeah, coming up on 5 years here on News Talk 98.9 WORD. And I can't tell you how quickly that's gone by. I mean, it's just been blink of an eye, and you look at all of the stuff that we've gone through with the elections, and oh man, it's been a busy 5 years, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the Supreme Court has said that President Trump should have the executive power to fire agency heads. They obliterated the deep state's final line of defense, and they granted President Trump full authority to fire the heads of independent, so-called independent federal agencies. So now he can get his people in, and this was big, because you always talk about permanent Washington and what they do, but there's always been a thing in this country where one president's actions should not handcuff their successor. Whatever you do as president, other than things like the Supreme Court and things like that, it shouldn't handcuff the next president. Well, that's what that did for a long time. And finally, we got some good common sense about that. I want you to listen to this guy. His name is Andrew Branca, and he discusses this, what you're going to hear, or oral arguments in the Supreme Court first. Here we go.
Why did no president challenge this structure from 1935 to 2025? We've had a lot of presidents who've had very strong views of Article 2. Yet for 90 years, it stood not directly challenged. Why do you think that is?
It'd be speculative to answer that. I mean, one reason might be that presidents are fairly comfortable with taking away tough political decisions. So as the court has said in multiple cases, I believe one president cannot bind the hands of his successors. And the president, there's a kind of responsibility that goes with the authority here. The president sometimes may have a political incentive to allow tough decisions to be outsourced, so to speak, to agencies that he doesn't have direct control over.
Yeah, so it's political cowardice, right? I talked about this earlier. It's why Congress creates these independent agencies. So I use the example of the European Parliament versus the European Commission. The European Parliament is elected, but has no power. All the rules are actually made by the European Commission, which is not elected. So the European Parliament that has to run for election can say, we didn't make that rule. Don't hold me responsible. I just want you to vote for me. And the European Commission says, yeah, we made that rule. F off. We're not accountable to you. You don't elect us. That's what Congress does when it creates these agencies. And some presidents are comfortable with that too. Some presidents are weak. They don't want to be held politically accountable. They want to be able to wave away responsibility to the independent agencies as well. But not Trump.
And he's absolutely right. And just think about that for a second. Congress will create these independent agencies, just like Andrew Branca said. Congress will create these independent agencies and have them make the tough decisions. Because then it doesn't go back on them. They can sit back and, with plausible deniability and say, hey, that wasn't us. That was the independent agency that did that. Congress should be taking responsibility for all of that stuff, every single bit of it. And ultimately, whoever that agency head is, they do indeed fall under the executive branch of government, which is headed by the President of the United States. So he should be, just like the Supreme Court said, he should be able to go in and fire people that are not living up to expectations or not fulfilling the president's agenda. And speaking of fulfilling the president's agenda, why are they dragging their feet so much in Congress to get his agenda passed? You see, all they want to talk about right now is all of this health care mess. I want you to listen to Republican Representative Scott Fitzgerald talking about these premiums.
Let me set the record straight. Obamacare is a complete failure. We are a decade and a half into the so-called Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, a bill that was promised to the American people as a solution to lower health care spending. But patients have not been protected, and health care certainly has not become more affordable. Since Obamacare was fully implemented in 2014, health care premiums have risen 129%, over 3 times the rate of inflation during the same period. Let me set the record straight. Obamacare.
Now, let us go back and reiterate that. Under Obamacare, health care premiums have risen 129%. That's the money that you pay your insurance company, whether you use their service or not. That is every month you're paying your insurance company. So who's really digging all this? Who loves all of this? The insurance companies. They think Obamacare is just the bee's knees. Because you've got a system that requires you to buy a product. This was kind of the beginning for my wife in becoming a conservative. She was right. She was right of center when I met her. Okay? Good common sense girl, right of center. But she had just gotten back from living over in Europe. She moved here from Paris. And we were thinking about getting married. And I said, well, we got to get you some health insurance. She said, I'm healthy. I don't need health insurance. I got, And I was like, oh, you don't understand. You have to have health insurance. She said, what do you mean I have to have health insurance? I said, yeah, because of the Affordable Care Act, it is required that you get health insurance or they will fine you. And she said, what kind of country have I moved back to? And that was really the start where she started really looking in to politics. And then, of course, the real turning point, so to speak, for her was the Trump rally down in North Charleston. And after that rally, we got in the car and for some reason, we listened to NPR. And the scene that they described was completely different than the one that we realized. And that was it. That was like, all right, she's like, that's it. I'm all on board. I'm a Trump girl. Let's get on the train and roll. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Giving the left heartburn. Afternoons 3 to 7. It's the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9
WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Garoto.
speaks.
You listen on your time.
Get the show on demand. Text podcast to 800-905-0989. The Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go to Chuck in Mills River. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm as usual, spectacular, because
Yes,
I'm
sir.
listening to Charlie James
All
show.
right, man,
Not
thanks.
Friday, but that would make it perfect.
Yeah.
But,
What's up, man?
Yesterday, I want to touch on something you touched on yesterday, which was the Pantalones magazine or Pantone, whatever it
Pantone.
was.
Yeah,
came
Pantone.
out. Okay, so they named it Cloud Dancer.
Yeah.
You as a man, when you looked at the picture, what color did you see?
White.
Thank you.
I saw white.
Okay, so what color, do you remember Elvira, Mistress of the Dark?
Yeah. Yeah.
What color dress was she wearing?
Black.
No. Good
No?
God, Charlie, it was onyx. Dear God.
Oh, I didn't know.
This explains
Yeah.
the difference between.
Yeah.
This explains the difference between men and women.
Yeah.
It's just it's black. Doggone
Right.
it.
See, I live
so-
in the Crayola 8-color box of crayons. My wife,
Cornflower blue.
My wife lives in the 64 box with the built-in sharpener on the side. She can tell you the difference in all
wow.
those colors. Yeah, she's amazing. But you're right. And all these liberal white women out there were upset because the color of the year was white.
And I thought that Antone argument or that thing brought us closer together because women understood finally. No, that's white.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
white. That's not Cloud Dancer. But you had a moment of sheer genius at the first of your show, and I will just tell you, it made me think of things differently when you were talking about the Miami mayor. Was it Miami?
Yeah, down in Miami, right?
The number of registered voters versus those who turn out.
Yeah.
That kind of, my mom and dad always used to say, if you don't go vote, you don't have any right to complain. Well, sure you do. It's First Amendment, but nobody should take you seriously. I've not voted in every election in my lifetime. If I said that, I would not be telling the truth.
Right.
But I've done my best to do so. And we've got to find a way. How do these leftists get their people out like they do? And supposedly we're the party of the rich, the Republicans.
Right. That's not
with
true.
all this money. Why don't we have a George? Well, no, why don't we have a fellow similar to George Soros's money content, but not his, his polar, just his polar opposite.
I get you.
Helping us out.
Yeah.
Not that we want to throw rocks.
Well, we
at
do
the
though.
police.
They've got something that we don't, and that's hatred in their hearts. And
Yeah,
hatred
that's
is
true.
a huge motivator, Chuck. I appreciate it. But as we were talking about earlier, for the first time in 28 years, a Democrat is now the mayor of Miami. Okay? Her name is, now listen to this. This is the name, Eileen Higgins. She defeated Emilio Gonzalez for mayor of Miami. A liberal white woman defeated a Hispanic Republican man. So, the irony of this is not lost on me. And this is, when I say this is a white woman, this is a white woman. She's Elizabeth Warren White. So in the city of Miami, who had this election yesterday, they've got 176,000 voters. You know how many people voted? 37,496. That's not good. That is not good. That is only 21% voter turnout. 21%. Eileen Higgins got 59.46% of the vote with 22,142. Emilio Gonzalez got 15,097. I don't get it. I just don't. So when you take a look at it, and just look at the numbers here. So if we go of registered voters of 175,000, 692, and you take out the 37,496 votes cast, that's 138,196 people who did not vote in that election. Think about that. 138,000 people did not vote. So, in other words, 79% of the people of Miami allowed 21% to determine their future. Gosh, that's just given up. That's absolutely given up. The one thing that the Republicans cannot do, unfortunately, is get people to the polls. They cannot make people go to the polls. But when you ask them, you go, hey, and I've asked even the head of the South Carolina GOP, hey, man, why aren't you guys out there registering more voters? Why don't we see more voter registration booths everywhere from the GOP? Well, we've got a database, and we do, call-outs and emails, and we try to get our people to get out there and vote. And that's really the problem. When you look historically at how difficult it is to get Republicans to get out and vote, if I were in charge, here's what I would do. Let's go get some more Republicans. Let's get some of these people registered to vote. Let's fire them up. Let's get them involved. And let's do what needs to be done. Instead of relying on the old guard who's not going to get off their duffs and vote, go get the new ones. Do what Scotty Pressler is doing. Scotty Pressler has done more. He played a significant role in President Trump winning Pennsylvania in the last election. Why? Because he was out registering people to vote. But you can't even find a high-ranking member of the GOP that is all about voter registration. They want to count on, like I said, the old guard. And folks, if they keep doing that, the midterms are going to be a disaster. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
15 minutes of breaking news and stimulating talk begins every hour, every afternoon on the Charlie James Show.
News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas. Tap and type your message on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line.
800-905-0989. This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Well, the House has passed the $900 billion, with a B, $900 billion National Defense Authorization Act. It will now go to the Senate, where people in the Senate will we're talking to Representative William Timmons last night, and he was like, this is a Christmas tree. This is one of those bills that's called a Christmas tree because people just come and hang on it whatever they want because they know nobody's going to vote against funding the military. So they can just come on and say, and I have heard, and I don't have this verified, but I have heard that somewhere in the NDAA is actually authorization for men to compete in women's sports at military academies. Again, I can't confirm that. I haven't read the bill, but that's what I have heard. So what does this include? Now, remember, Zelensky is backing out of the peace deal. He met with Keir Starmer. He met with Macron. He met with all these people over there in Europe, and they convinced Zelensky to back out of the peace deal that was proposed by President Trump. That means he just wants this war to continue. Pure and simple. Now, it's my thought that since he wants the war to continue, and he does not want to, and you know what? This is not the first time that's happened. This is not the first time that's happened. It was several years ago under the Biden administration that there was a peace plan being offered. And, gosh, I can't remember who it was over in England. The former prime minister. I can't remember his name. Guy with a weird haircut. I know. But he goes over to Zelensky and he says, don't take the deal. Don't take the deal. So, for at least the second time that we know of, Zelensky has backed out of a peace deal with Russia. But in the National Defense Authorization Act, it gives $400 million annually to Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative. Israel getting $500 million for Israeli missile defense, $80 million for U.S.-Israel anti-tunnel cooperation, $50 million for U.S.-Israel anti-drone cooperation. Taiwan gets $1 billion for the Taiwan security cooperation. The Baltic Security Initiative, $175 million. Overseas Humanitarian Disaster and Civic Aid, $103 million. Middle East, $357 million for the government of Iraq, Syrian militias, Kurdish security forces, and Lebanon. Over $100 million for support to Middle Eastern countries to increase securities along their border. It directs the Secretary of Defense to provide assistance, including equipment, support, and supplies to the government of Jordan and the government of Lebanon. Speaking of that, and the Department of War, in this NDAA, there is also a requirement. Well, what it says is that it gives Congress some leverage to compel the release of the videos of these drone attacks on the boats. Let me see. I want to read this. This is from CNN. The bill includes provisions that increases pressure on the Pentagon to provide Congress with videos of its strikes against suspected drug boats in the Caribbean. The inclusion of the provision in a must-pass legislation, which was negotiated by top House and Senate Democrats and Republicans, reflect lawmakers' continued desire for the Trump administration to disclose more information about the military's controversial September 2nd double-tap strike on the suspected Venezuelan drug boat. The specific provision would withhold a quarter of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's travel budget unless the Pentagon complies with various oversight requirements, including providing the House and Senate Armed Services Committee videos of strikes conducted against designated terrorist organizations in the area of responsibility of the United States Southern Command. It also requires the Pentagon to provide Congress with copies of any execute orders it issues. I'd have told them to pound sand. Now, the president wanted the NDAA passed, but I will guarantee you he didn't know about that stuff. So, $900 billion. We'll see if it passes the Senate. Probably so. Let's go to Richard in Dallas. Richard, welcome.
Hey, Charlie.
Hey, bud.
I got a question.
All right.
All of this fraud and abuse up here in, where's that, the Somali people that
Yes.
in Minnesota?
Right.
You said it has reached an amount of $10 billion?
$8 billion, yeah.
$8 billion.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, they found out about all the fraud. Reckon they'll find out who's responsible for receiving any of it? And if they do, will anything happen to those people that were responsible for stealing from the American people?
We're going to have to see. Now, some people have gone to jail for fraud, but I think it goes a lot deeper than anybody really realizes.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just asking, do you think that anything will happen to those people? I filled out a couple of forms, Charlie, and right at the bottom of where you sign your name, it says, any information, that's not correct, you could be held, accountable under penalty of federal law.
Exactly.
Then you sign your name.
Right.
And they done that.
Sure they did.
To get what they done to scam us. And now they just going to walk and just say, well, that wasn't right. I mean,
probably so. Now I know that Pam Bondi's looking into all of this, and we'll see what comes of this. But I tell you what,
they should be rounded up.
Yeah.
And take the money that they stolen from us and send their ass back to Somalia and let them spend it over there.
I agree, Richard. I agree. I appreciate it. But in fact, we are hearing that half of these so-called Somali refugees are actually here illegally. Now, if you gain citizenship through illegal means, that means your citizenship should be null and void, and you should be deported immediately. But again, let's see what's happened, because here we are, 12 months into this thing. No handcuffs, no mug shots, no perp walks, no real indictments, no trials, no sentencing, no anything from our Department of Justice. What are they going to be doing? Let's go to D in Tomasi and find out what's going on. D, welcome.
Hey, Charlie, how you doing, brother?
I'm fine as wine. What's going on with you, D?
Listen, this is regressing to one of your previous callers in another segment, but I honestly believe, and my question to you is, one of the greatest advantages that we could possibly bring about is term limits.
Yeah, I know, but they're not going to vote for that.
Okay, and I understand that. So here's a concept, and I know that this is just as equally impossible as them voting for that, But if we could, in other words, we've got to root out these career establishment politicians usurping and gathering up so much power over the years and so much wealth over the years. And like I say, the concept is if by some means we could expose their corruption and actually hold them accountable, then there would be many vacancies.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, easier way would just be going in and voting them out of office. I appreciate it, D. Thank you. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
15 minutes of breaking news and stimulating talk begins every hour, every afternoon on The Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas. Chat with Charlie.
800-905-0989. Save it on your phone.
This is The Charlie James Show, only on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Let me tell you the problem with the Republican Party. And this is Utah Republican Utah Governor Spencer Cox talking about Democrat Josh Shapiro. Let's take a listen to this.
Do you think he would be a good president?
Yeah, I do. I have to tell you, I think
I'm very biased towards governors. I think governors make the best presidents. I just do. I think for this very reason, we always say that potholes aren't partisan. As governors, we actually have to accomplish stuff. And our system was set up for the states to be laboratories of democracy, so that we could learn from each other and steal ideas. And that people vote with their feet now. If your state isn't performing, they will move to another state. And so I've been very impressed with what he's been able to do on the economy, with permitting reform, cutting regulations. That sounded like red state stuff, and he's doing it, and that's impressive to me. And so I think there are a lot of governors in this country who would make great presidents. And
you have lace on your drawers, Spencer Cox. You have lace on your drawers. Josh Shapiro is a Democrat. I don't care. I don't care if they're a good Democrat. I don't care if they talk in pretty flowery language. They are still a Democrat. I said that's what gets me. I got into a huge argument with some people over a nonpartisan election where people actually endorsed Republicans endorsed a Democrat. Oh, no, Charlie, that was a nonpartisan election. Well, you know what? The guy that you endorsed is the first vice chair of the Spartanburg Democrat Party. In fact, the South Carolina Democrat Party put out a graphic on their Facebook page that says, "We flipped it." I wouldn't give you a plug nickel for a Republican that will endorse a Democrat for anything. And they're mad at me because I pointed that out. I pointed that out, and they're like, I can't believe you did that. Well, here's what I know. I've never endorsed a Democrat. I've never endorsed or I've never voted for a Democrat. But here you've got Spencer Cox, governor of Utah, saying that Josh Shapiro would be a wonderful president. Yeah. Josh Shapiro is for abortion on demand. In fact, in Pennsylvania, he promised that he would veto any legislation that put any restrictions on abortion. Any restrictions on abortion. I'm sorry, Spencer Cox, but things like that matter to me. They matter to me deeply. Anybody that is for open borders, unimpeded abortions, tax and spend, anybody that's for that, high taxes, no, they're not getting my vote. Just by carrying the moniker, just by carrying that D next to your name. You know what that D means to me? Disqualified. Period. From any election, every single time. I don't care. I don't care what your ads say. I don't care what the election is. I don't care who your friends are. I don't care who's supporting you. If you are a Democrat, I don't want you in that position. Period. End of story. Man, but that's these feel-good, go-along to get along Republicans. I'm MAGA. Vote for a Democrat. I don't get it. I really don't. It's irritating to me when that happens. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. Charlie, I voted for two Democrats in the past. Both of these ladies are Tricky Nikki and Miss Lindsey Graham. Yeah, I understand. Charlie, I'm not sure there are any Republicans in the Senate or the House that are actually true blue, red-blooded American patriots. I believe they're all Democrats in hiding. Maybe so. Absolutely. Charlie, Governor Jimmy Carter made a lousy president. Yes, exactly right. A lousy president. But, oh, no, Josh Shapiro. Yeah, he'd be a great one, I guess. So there you go. Charlie, Republicans are lazy. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Republicans are lazy. I mean, that's why you got, I mean, all those people, 130,000 in Miami just didn't show up to vote. And I know a lot of those were Republicans. It wouldn't have taken all of that much. Charlie, I was waiting to hear if you said something else for the D word. Oh, there's a lot of D words I could think of for the Democrats. So there you go. So I don't care. I don't care. I've seen what the Democrats do. I know what the Democrats want to do. I know what they stand for. And more importantly, I know who they stand against. And who they stand against is you and me. The true patriots of this country. That's who they stand against. And they will never get my vote. I would rather not vote than vote for a Democrat. All right, folks, we're going to get out of here. I want you to have a wonderful, wonderful evening. You know what tomorrow is? What? 2 weeks until Christmas. Good gracious. Y'all have a lovely evening. As always, God bless. Buckle up. Bye, y'all.